Hi, welcome back. This is Eric with Painting Business Pro, and today I'm going to be kind of running you guys through production, actually delivering on the services you're promising clients. But before we get into that, I just want to recap kind of where we've come from so far. So in the first video, we talked about why the painting business is a good business to start, why I helped 10 of my friends start a painting business, because it's simple, it's lucrative, and if you set it up right, you can make a whole lot of money. So that's why we started there. And then in the second video, we talked about where a lot of painters spend a lot of their time, and where a lot of people waste a lot of time that you don't need to waste. So we talked about how to really cut down on the time that you're spending in your business so you can work on growing your business. In the third video, we talked about marketing, and the different opportunities there are for marketing. And then in the fourth video, we talked about sales and just about putting your customer before the sale. And when you really care more about your customer than you do about making the sale, you can be much better than all the other competition out there. We also talked about making a really good sales process, which we're going to get into more in the next couple videos. So that leaves us one last thing here, which is production, which is we've already gotten the lead from our marketing efforts. We've already made the sale from doing a really good sales process, and now we've got a client who's given us a deposit, and we need to actually get their house painted. So this part of the whole business is where most painters really fall short, and even a lot of the people I know who run really good companies. This is really the place where people end up spending most of their time. This is usually the biggest bottleneck to people growing their business is production. Because it can take up a whole lot of your time. If you don't set up a really good system around production, which we're going to talk about systems also in the next couple videos, but if you don't set up a really good system for your production, it can be an overwhelming amount of work. It'll take a good crew with 2 to 3 guys working on it, anywhere from 3 to 4 days to finish a job. So you can imagine if you're running a $500,000, $2 million company, you can have quite a few people working on job sites all at once, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong with production if you don't set up a really nice, elegant system like I'm going to show you. So there's 2 ways that you can kind of go about this. So the first way is you can hire employees. Now how this is going to work is just posting ads places. People submit their resume to you looking for work. But mostly it's posted on Craigslist or other employment services to find people who are looking for painting jobs. I guess the upside to this is you can have a lot more control, or perceived control over your production. I actually don't think you have as much control when you manage employees, but some people think that if you have employees, you have like more control over your job site and you can make sure things go smoothly. So anyways, you can hire employees. The downside to hiring employees is it's a lot of work. Honestly, it's a lot of work to hire employees, it's a lot of work to train employees, it's a lot of work to manage employees, and then it's a lot of money to pay employees because of payroll taxes, which are a whole lot of fun, and it's just expensive. Employees are expensive because they make a lot of mistakes, and if they go way over budget on a house, you still have to pay them. Like it's kind of a difficult situation. So we don't want to do that. I would strongly urge you not to hire employees to produce your jobs. What we prefer here is to subcontract. Sorry, that's kind of small. Subcontract. So what subcontracting is basically there's a ton of painting companies out there. Okay, but there's a lot of painting companies that all they do is paint. They don't do marketing and they don't do sales, but they'll paint houses for half of what customers pay. So, for example, when you're doing sales, once in a while you'll go into an estimate, and your competition will be like $1,500 for the price of the job, and your price is like $2,800 or $3,200. So you get way undercut. Those are the people that we want to hire to do the painting for us. Because we can still sell jobs for $3,000 because that's a competitive rate for homeowners with other companies, just like the company we're setting up. So a lot of the big, larger companies are going to have higher prices, and that's what makes them bigger and more reputable, and that's how you know about them. But there's a ton of companies out there that charge really low prices, but you never hear about them because they don't market, they don't sell, they just paint. A lot of times they have just a white van with no markings on it, and literally their business model is to subcontract from other companies. So how that works is basically, I post ads just like I do for hiring employees, but I'm hiring subcontractors. So I actually post ads to find subcontractors, and I actually pay them just 50% of the job. So when we sell a job for $3,000, I pay my subcontractor $1,500 to do that job. And that covers all the labor, all the materials, and pays them. Because a lot of times these are business owners, and they run anywhere from just them and one person to maybe even running 3 or 4 crews, depending on the different subcontractor. So I pay them 50%, which frankly is probably less than you'll end up spending over here, because the other downside to doing employees is that not only do you spend probably 35% paying your employees and another couple percent paying payroll taxes, and then you also are going to have to pay for all the materials on the job, which is going to be anywhere from like 10 to 17% depending on the job. So when you're hiring employees, the biggest downside, I think, is that you have a ton more costs to manage. Because you have to manage their hourly rate times how many hours they work, plus any payroll taxes, plus you got to manage the materials on the job. It's a lot of expenses to manage. Versus subcontracting, I have one expense to manage. It's 50%. That's it. So actually I've known some people who went the employee route, and in my experience, this has actually been more profitable and it's been easier. So what's really nice about this is, so once we agree on the job, so we've hired a subcontractor, we've agreed on the price of a job to do for $1,500. So all we do is we call the customer and we make sure that they have their colors picked out and their date scheduled. And as soon as the job is ready, we schedule a start date with the customer. We say, okay, we're going to start next Tuesday. And then on Monday, I meet with the subcontractor. I give them a folder with all of the information about the job. They go over to the house on Tuesday. They start the job. They finish the job. They collect the final check for me. And then they go to my bank. They deposit the check into my bank account for me. And then they come and pick up their check from us. So literally, the only thing that we're actually involved with when we subcontract is setting up the job, which means picking colors, getting approval from homeowners associations, if you have those around the country, and really just preparing the customer and scheduling the start date. The only other thing we have to do is hire and maintain our subcontractors. So I want to talk just really briefly about hiring and maintaining subcontractors, because it's actually pretty easy to do. So the first thing that I want to point to with hiring and maintaining subcontractors is that there's a ton of them out there, and there's not a ton of good ones. So you are going to have to sift through quite a bit of people. So I usually post an ad on Craigslist, just saying, hey, we're a growing company, and we're looking for subcontractors, for people to subcontract to. And if you're interested and you have insurance, please contact us here. I'll get about 50 or 60 responses sometimes from an ad like that. And when I get 50 or 60 responses, I'll probably delete about 80% of them, just based on the response. Because what's important to me in hiring a subcontractor is someone who has good communication skills and is professional. Because a lot of times the way people respond to an ad is also going to be kind of the way that they operate their business. So we always want to make sure to really sift through and find the right people. Once I've sifted down to about those 10 contractors that I'm actually interested in meeting with, I'll set up meetings and I'll just go and meet with them and talk to them and, use my best judgment really, whether or not I think that they'd be someone I'd like to work with. And then on the very first job, I'll probably hand off the folder to them and actually drop into the job site a couple times just to see how it's going, because I like to kind of keep a close watch on the first couple jobs that a subcontractor does just to make sure they're doing really good work. And once they've done one job, then I give them another, and then another, and then another, and, I'll keep kind of loading them up with work more and more over time as long as they're doing a really great job. So, in my business now, we're in 3 years now. We have 7 really good subcontractors, and between those 7 subcontractors, we can produce about $1 million in business. So we basically have seven people down here who are all doing all of the production stuff for us, and they're very happy to do so. And why they're very happy to do so is for 2 reasons. And this speaks towards maintaining subcontractors. The first reason that they're totally happy working with us is because we pay them fair. So, we're giving them 50%, but we're pricing the job properly to make sure that 50% is a good amount for them to actually be making to make money. So when my subcontractors come to me and say, hey, I need an extra $150 on this job, or I need an extra $200 on this job, a lot of the times I'll end up giving it to them if I believe the job is underbid. And so that's something you'll kind of have to learn as you go, is like, what is the right price point? Because you also want to be sure just not to be taken advantage of by your subcontractors. But I do take care of them and I pay them fairly. And then the second thing, and this is huge, is I pay them right away. So a lot of companies will wait a week or 2 weeks or something to cut all their checks for payroll. I literally, the second a subcontractor finishes the job, they can bring me the check and I'll swap them checks immediately. So they can get paid the day they finish the job, which is incredibly important to subcontractors.
So this is our production form and file. So basically what happens is when a salesperson books the job, then they make a job folder. The job folder has all the details about the job on it. The salesperson then every Monday hands off all the job folders to our production manager. So this is the production manager's job. It's really only 4 steps. There's 4 steps to managing production. So the first thing is you enter the job into the production form. So this is our production form. So when you get a new job folder, you first got to enter the job in. So put the customer's name there, and then I've taken out their name and phone number, the phone number and address. So columns B and C are their phone number and their address. This is the job size, so how much we booked the job for. This is the deposit they gave us. This is the balance they gave us, and this is the total we received. So this is what the job was booked for. This is what we actually received. So you can see we didn't collect $200 on that job because that particular job took 2 months because of weather and other issues. It's a long story, but we gave them the $200 off just for good faith. So that happened. So anyways, that's how I can keep track of my losses though and my profitability. The next column is what subcontractor is doing the job and who currently has the folder. So then the status of the job, this is where most of the management happens, is in the status and the notes. So first you enter the job in the production form. Step 2, contact the customer until they're ready to start. So customers go through these 5 phases. So first they go through the colors phase. The colors phase is where the customer is choosing their color and confirming their colors. Then once they've chosen and confirmed their colors, then they're in the HOA/other phase. So HOA stands for Homeowners Association. Some neighborhoods have an HOA where the customer or the homeowner needs to get approval from the association to get their house painted. So this is like a third party phase. So this is, we're waiting on a third party. So whether it's the HOA or it's a carpenter or a roofing company or something else, we're waiting on a third party. Once the colors are approved and all third parties are approved, the customer is ready to start. Once they're ready to start, then we do step 3. Set up start date with customer and with contractor. So let's say we're talking to Rick Archer. Rick Archer. So I say, hey Rick, this is Eric with Foothills Painting. I just wanted to touch base with you. It looks like you got your HOA approval done, and I just wanted to call the schedule. So we've got an availability in our schedule next week. We could probably start Tuesday. Would that work for you? Okay, great. We'll plan on starting Tuesday. I'll let you know if anything changes, and otherwise I'll give you a call on Monday just to confirm what time we'll be there. So then on Monday, I meet with my contractor. So you can see this is the job size. Jay is our contractor doing the job. So on Monday, I would meet with Jay and I would say, all right, cool, man. So we're all on track. Tomorrow, you're going to be doing this job, and I would give him the job folder. Say, here's the price. The job is $2,050, so you'll get $1,025 on the job. What time can you be there tomorrow? Jay says, I can be there at 9. Okay, so I call the customer and I say, hey, Rick, so my painter's going to be there tomorrow morning to get started. His name's Jay. He'll be there by 10, so I give Jay a little bit of cushion there. So even if he's late, we're not in trouble. He'll be there by 10 tomorrow to get started, and he'll be able to get everything complete for you. And once the job is complete, he'll go ahead and get that final check taken care of. He can get the final check from me and everything. Just write that out to Foothills Painting. If you have any questions in the process, definitely give me a call. But he's been working with us for a while, and he should be able to take care of everything. So once the job gets started, it's in progress. And then once Jay finishes the job, collects the check, then step 4 is meet with the contractor to exchange checks. So Jay gives us this check from the customer, excuse me, and we would give Jay his check for $1,025. That's it. So that's what you do, and you do it over and over and over. So basically how I teach people to manage production is basically every morning I wake up and I look at this form and I say, okay, so this isn't a good example because these are all finished. And this isn't a good example either because we're almost done with our jobs for the year. But October, for example, I would wake up and let's imagine all these were in different phases. I would literally just go through and say, okay, do I need to call the Stanleys today? Do I need to call him today? Do I need to call him today? Do I need to call him today? And in the morning, in about 1 to 2 hours, you can make all of your phone calls. So every morning, it's really just a matter of phone calls. Once the job is finished, we put finished in the notes section. So I want to show you the value of the notes section because that's the other valuable section to use. So here you can see, if we actually click on this, you can see how much all of the notes, all the communications with the customer is in here, all of it. So we know exactly what we've talked to this customer about. If we see this one, same thing. Look at that one. Holy crap, we've talked to them a ton. So, and kind of a funny note here is that, these jobs, like, I didn't even know this, but this job was supposed to be done like a month ago. Whoops. It was supposed to be done on September 30th. It's Halloween today. So that kind of gives you an idea of, like, how little I actually am involved in this process. Like, my production manager literally takes care of everything. And if there's ever a serious problem, like, I'll find out about it because they'll call the company line and I'll get an email. That's a whole other system. But basically, I think it's kind of funny because, I had no idea until I looked at this today that these jobs are supposed to be done almost a month ago. So, I'll be checking in with them and I'm sure I know there's explanations for it, but it kind of points out how little involved I actually am, which I think is great. So you can see we have about $89,000 to produce in October. 50,000 of it or so is done. So we got a little bit left here, which is great. And then I think my equations are off there actually. Let's do this. So 71,000 is collected. So we've got about 18,000 left. So just to show you how much we've produced, March was 25,000. April was 50, May was 86, June was 95, July was 114,000. And what was cool about July is that I left town on June 29th for Lake Tahoe, where I spent the 4th of July with a bunch of friends. I went straight from Lake Tahoe up to Seattle, where I was on a getaway with 20 entrepreneurs from around the world for a week. I got back in town, I was home for a week. And then I went to the Caribbean to St. Martin with my girlfriend for a week. So while I was traveling around the world to all sorts of fun places, we produced $114,000 in revenue, and my profit margin this year was about 17%. So, it was a really good month. And then August, we did even more. In August, we produced $134,000 in August. And then September was a really slow month at $58,000. And then October, we're at about 90,000. We'll finish at about 90,000. And you'll see we have nothing scheduled for November. So that's our production, kind of how we run it. What's really amazing is that Paul, who's managed our production, has not. He had a busy month in June because we went from doing 80, 90, jumping up to 2 of our biggest months. So he was hiring new contractors and doing a lot of crazy stuff like that. And so he was working about 30 or 40 hours a week in June. But Paul, as a production manager, started working in January, at the end of January, hiring subcontractors. He's done with work now, which is the end of October. So he's worked about 9 months this year. And besides June, he only worked about 20 hours a week. And our final production this year is going to be about $650,000. So it's just really amazing that he really, one person could have managed $1 million of production working less than full time 9 months out of the year. And Paul is 24 years old and just graduated from college. And he's going to make pretty good money this year. I think he's probably making $40,000, $50,000 or something like that. Because I just pay him a percentage. So anyways, that's about it. So that's production. Now one last thing. I'm not getting into all the details, but we do have like scripts, so I want to show you something really fast, just so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about with systems, because that's our overall system, but there is more systems here. So you can see we have a 4-week projection, so this is how we actually project out the schedule. So it's a pretty simple file. I'm not going to get into that now. We have our subcontractor recruiting system, so this is how we recruit and hire subcontractors. It's the 3 phases. This is how we help customers. This is the conversations we have with customers to help them with colors. And this is a quality form. This is really great. Our contractors have our customers fill this out at the end of every job. And so we have about 300 references from customers where they not only do they rate the job on a 1 to 7, 7 being the best, but they also usually write a little comment section. It's been the easiest way I've ever found to get references. We've got like 300 almost effortlessly in the last couple of years. And we have almost all 7s, so it's cool because we actually get feedback from customers to find out actually how it's going, and we get great ratings, so it's been really, really cool, and a really simple way to get those. So that's kind of all of the stuff I have to show you for now about production system, and I do want to let you know that as far as production, well, as far as all of my systems go, if you are really interested in just getting all my systems, I've actually published all of them at easypaintingbiz.com. You can buy them. It's $140 about, I think, $139.99 or something like that. So you could actually buy them, and what you would get is you get access to this Dropbox folder, which has all of my forms and templates and everything, like from a sample of a client, like a client manual, to contract, to disclaimers, to ads, contractor interview outline, contractor phone call. I mean, you can see a ton of stuff on here, and I'll be getting into all of these things, over time, in these videos and stuff I'm doing. But if you just want to buy them all up, they're right there, because it's going to take me like a year or 2 to actually get through everything. And then also on all these CDs, there's about 7 hours of audio of me talking through and explaining everything. So we're primarily going to talk about lead buying today. We'll come back to direct marketing later. So the other things you want to keep in mind from what we talked about before is the total spent on marketing divided by the total sales equals the percent you spent on marketing. And the percent you want to spend on marketing is 10% or less is the goal. So for example, 10,000 in sales, spent 700 in marketing. That'd be 700 divided by 10,000 equals 7%. So this would be effective marketing channel. So that's kind of the goal. Anything under 10% I would say is effective for now. So that's what we're going to cover today, so let's kind of get into it. So what I'm going to do is I'd like to just go ahead and run you guys through some of the different companies that you can buy leads through. So first I want to kind of show you how it works. There's really going to be 2 different kinds of lead services. So I'm going to run you through the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably the 5 most well-known or the 5 most effective companies that I would recommend trying to buy leads from. And I would not, and I'll also recommend the pros and cons of each company and all that kind of as we go through. So first, you kind of want to know how buying leads works. So here's how it works with CraftJack. So CraftJack, Networks, Home Advisor, and Painter Choice are going to work very similarly. Thumbtack kind of does it a little bit differently. So I'll take my time here, and then you'll know that the rest of the services work very similar to this. So how it works: homeowners search the web for a local contractor. Homeowners find our targeted web properties, so that means homeowners find CraftJack's website. Homeowners provide their project and their contact information. So, for example, the homeowner would provide their contact information and any details about their painting project. And then CraftJack will send you their information. And then homeowners can review your custom profile page, and you can track your results using CraftJack and all that. But essentially what happens is homeowners find CraftJack's webpage, submits their painting project, and then CraftJack sends all that information to you and charges you for every lead they send you. So that's CraftJack. So CraftJack is one of them. Another company is Networks. That's Networks with an X.com. So on their homepage, you can go to Get Listed. Networks does the same thing. So find a contractor, so you can see what it looks like. Painting and staining. So look, I put in my zip code, and there we go. All right, so 1 to 2 rooms, blah blah blah. And put in my address, cool, or whatever my address is. And I just put that in. Get free quotes. And the second I submit that, whatever painters are signed up with Networks in this zip code would get my information. So we got CraftJack, we got Networks, and we have Home Advisor. So I want to talk about these three for a second. So CraftJack. I haven't used CraftJack myself. I've only heard from people who have used CraftJack, and I hear it's okay. It's not that great. The last person, my best comparison is to Painter Choice. Painter Choice is where I've seen people have the most success with by far. Painter Choice has been the most effective for painting that I've heard of, and so I'll kind of compare things to Painter Choice. So CraftJack and Painter Choice. Recently, I know someone who tried both these services at the same time. They got 5 leads from Painter Choice, and they got 5 leads from CraftJack. They were only able to set up 1 estimate from CraftJack's leads. They were able to set up 3 or 4 estimates from Painter Choice, and they booked 2 jobs. So, it was just a lot more effective. But CraftJack is something that I don't think that Painter gave a good chance to. So my advice for all of these, because Painter Choice is the most effective, and then these 3 and Thumbtack, I've heard good things and bad things about. So my advice for all 4 of these, for CraftJack, Networks, Home Advisor, and Thumbtack, my advice is try them and track your marketing. Are you spending $1,000 to make $10,000 in sales, or are you spending $300 to make $10,000 in sales? So you just want to try it and track it. And there's a couple things that you also should know. A concept you should understand is you have to give it a chance. So when you try these services, you can't get like 2 leads and see if it's effective. You're going to have to try 10 or 15 leads. So the order that I would do it in is first I would do Painter Choice, then I would try Home Advisor, and if I was effective with Home Advisor, then I would try Networks and CraftJack and Thumbtack. So, okay. So Painter Choice, Home Advisor, Networks, and CraftJack all do the same thing. So I'll run you through the pros and cons. Painter Choice costs about $35 per lead. It's anywhere from 10 to 30 leads per month. $35 a lead, and the lead gets sent to 3 companies. Home Advisor, they could just rain leads on you. I mean, Home Advisor is the giant of the industry. They could get you 10 leads a day if you wanted. The upside to Home Advisor is they can get you a ton of leads. The downside is their leads are more expensive, $40 to $50 a lead, and you're competing with 4 or 5 companies instead of just 3. Like 3 total. So Painter Choice, it's 3 total. Home Advisor, it's 4 or 5 total. So it's more expensive, there's more competition, and the leads aren't quite as good as Painter Choice because they get more window shoppers. So more people who aren't actively looking for quotes. It's more people who want a rough number and stuff like that. So that's the downside there. But they get a ton of leads. Networks, I've just heard that they're just okay. Their lead quality is all right. But I've heard from some people that they'll only get like a few leads a month sometimes, so they don't seem to get as many leads. So that's why I would try that one last. CraftJack, I also haven't heard anything outstanding about. They're also not nearly as big as Home Advisor. They're more like networks. I've heard that their lead quality isn't as good. And I would just recommend trying it out. I haven't bothered to try it out because my business, we primarily do door-to-door marketing. And then we do Painter Choice and Home Advisor ourselves. And then I have some good friends who do Painter Choice and Home Advisor, and then I have some good friends who do Painter Choice. I don't have any good friends who use CraftJack or Networks, just because I haven't heard the best things about them. I would recommend trying them though. So the last one I want to tell you about is Thumbtack. Thumbtack is they do the same thing. Customer comes to the website and they get their information on what the customer wants. The problem is Thumbtack doesn't send the lead out. You have to submit your quote online, and if the customer chooses you, then you get the customer's information. And so the downside is that it's kind of a price war. What I've heard is that you pretty much need to like lowball the price to get the job with Thumbtack. So that's one downside to Thumbtack. The other downside to Thumbtack is I heard that you only get like a lead or 2 leads a month. So they're a really new company, and they're doing like so many different industries right now. I mean, you can those are the cities, but they're in a ton of different industries, and I think they're just starting to grow. So Thumbtack would be one to kind of look out for. So these are the 5 companies I would check out. If you go to painterchoice.com/join, you can actually read about Painter Choice because this has been really effective. So there's a few testimonials on here. Here's how it works, which I explained. Customers come to our website and request estimates. We email and text message you their information instantly. So as soon as a customer submits their project, Painter Choice will instantly email you and text message you that information so you can immediately call and set up an appointment. It's $35 a lead, and we'll get 15 to 30 a month. So right here. So I love how convenient this is. Marketing's hard and you guys make it easy. The leads are good and customers love the service. They're usually still on the website when I call. I set up about 60% of the leads right when I call. Great service. I've got about 25 to 30 leads and booked about $25,000 of business, and I've spent about $800 on leads. So it's been really effective, and I would definitely recommend this to people. So last story I'll kind of tell you is there was someone who bought my course, Easy Painting Biz. Someone recently bought this course on how to start and run your painting business, and he was emailing me for help, and this was before when I only taught people to do door to door, and he was struggling with marketing. So I told him to try Painter Choice, and so I did a couple extra phone calls with this guy to help him out with sales, and then he got these Painter Choice leads. So he submitted his information and got the very first lead he got from Painter Choice. He set up for an estimate for the very next day. He went out and did that estimate, booked the job for $2,700, and then 2 days later, his subcontractor started the job, finished the job in 2 days, and this guy's name was Sean, and Sean made $1,000 within the first week of turning these leads on. So that's how simple you can automate your marketing system. Once you start with these companies, whether it's with Painter Choice or Thumbtack or Home Advisor or Networks or CraftJack, once you set up your account, they'll just send you leads. They'll just keep sending you leads unless you ask them to stop sending you leads. So it's literally like, talk about an automated system. You can literally set up lead buying and you can just buy leads forever. And you could probably get like 50 to 60 leads a month like I told you. So really cool way to automate your marketing. So before we kind of get into the call here, because what we're going to cover today is just the initial call. That seemed to be the most obvious place to start, is after you've gotten a customer who is interested in getting an estimate, the first thing you're going to do is do an initial phone call with them to schedule the estimate. And so that's what we're going to cover today, is just the script that we use to schedule estimates. Before we get into that, I just wanted to cover these few things with you. So first, This is all stuff we've covered in previous videos, but first, people buy because these are the 4 criteria. Like, these are the 4 criteria you need to meet with your customer for them to sign with you. So first, they need to be painting this year. If they're not painting their house this year, they're not going to sign until they're sure they're painting. 2, they got what they need and want. If you don't get them what they need and want, you won't get the job. If you get them exactly what they need and want, you've got the second piece down. 3, they trust you or they're comfortable with you. If you got all the other 3 pieces but they don't trust you, that you're not going to get the job. That's a really critical piece. Number 4, the price is fair. That doesn't mean you're the lowest price. It just needs to be a fair price. And all 4 of these things are important. If you're missing any one of these pieces, you won't get the job. Another thing that we covered before is that most other contractors suck. Standing out from the competition is easy. Very, very easy. And you'll see just in the script how much we've already separated ourselves from most contractors just in the way that we schedule our estimates. And then the other thing to remember is that it's all about the customer. Their needs and wants before yours. You do not matter. Put the customer first. So I think the quote was, when you put the customer before the sale, you will sell more than anyone else out there, is a quote. So really make sure you put your customer first. So we're going to get into this initial call. So this is the call. This is our script. So we're going to kind of go through this, and as we go through, I'm going to make some comments on different pieces. So obviously, starting the call, hey, is Dan there? Hey, Dan. Hey, this is Eric with Foothills Painting. We stopped by last weekend to see if you'd like a free estimate on your house. Do you remember that? So right here, that's obviously a door-to-door lead. So if you were buying leads, you'd say, hey, this is Eric with Foothills Painting. I got your information from painterchoice.com that you were interested in a free estimate on your house. Do you remember that? Great. Well, I was just calling to schedule a time for the estimate, but first, can you tell me a little bit about what you're looking to get done? So this is an important question. You want to make sure that you're asking an open-ended question. You want to make sure that this first question you're asking is a question that is going to get them talking. So for example, you'll see this second question, do you know when your home was last painted? That would be a bad first question because it doesn't get people talking. It's a one-word answer. Do you know when your house was last painted? 7 years ago. Are you planning on having the entire house painted or just certain areas? The whole house. Have you noticed any areas where the paint's fading or peeling? Yes, we've noticed peeling. Will we be keeping the same colors? Yes. So if you only ask these questions, you're not going to really get a huge interaction with the customer. So I always start with, can you tell me a little bit about what you're looking to get done? And then you got to listen really intently. Repeat back to them, ask questions to ensure you know exactly what they're wanting to get done. So for example, well, actually, we'll get into that examples in another video, and we'll just make sure we get through the script now. But essentially, you just really want to repeat back and literally say, okay, cool, so you're just looking to get the whole outside done, nothing crazy, because you guys are planning on moving? Okay, great. So I literally repeat it back to them to make sure that I heard exactly what they want done. And then these are some other questions I always like to know. When was it last painted? You planning on getting the whole house done or just certain areas? Have you noticed that there's any peeling or fading or cracking? Where have you noticed those things? Great, we'll definitely take a look at that at the estimate. You plan on changing colors or keeping the same colors. So essentially at the beginning of this call, we are just asking questions right here. This is all questions just to kind of find out what their needs and wants are so that we can fulfill on those needs and wants. The last question, and this is a really critical one, is I was curious when exactly you're hoping to get the work done. Now this is really important for a couple reasons. One is it's going to really gauge the sale for you. Like if they need to get this done next week, that's going to change everything, versus if they're planning on getting it done in like 4 months. Most people are going to be pretty flexible. But the other really important reason I ask this question is it leads in to this point right here, which is what I call a pre-close. A pre-close is basically where you're asking for the job before you're actually asking for the job. So you'll see right here, it says, lastly, I was curious when you were hoping to get the work done. They say, well, like early May. Okay, great. The reason I ask is we're actually trying to fill up some of our upcoming spots in our schedule in May. So if you guys are happy with everything and you actually decide you want to paint with me, I'll save you some money if you're willing to schedule for May, because that would really help us out with our schedule. Would that work for you? Like, would that be something you'd be interested in? If everything worked out, would you be able to do May? You would. Okay, great. Well, then I'll definitely be able to save you some money. All right. So that right there is the pre-close. And the reason you always do the pre-close is because it takes people, it changes their mindset. First, their mindset is getting an estimate. And getting an estimate has nothing to do with signing a contract. Getting an estimate is just getting an estimate. But when you ask this question and you start to talk to people about saving money and about scheduling with us and painting with us and making a decision, all of a sudden, the way they're approaching the estimate is not just getting an estimate and getting a number, but now they're going to start evaluating me and if they want to hire me or not. And literally, my customers will ask me questions that they would only ask if they were really considering hiring you. And if you're just going out there just doing estimates and you're not closing like this, people are just, they're not going to take the estimate as seriously. They're not in the mindset to buy. So this kind of puts people in a mindset to buy, and it gives them a financial incentive to do that. Because we're saving, I can definitely save you some money if you're willing to schedule, for May. All right, great. And then I say, so I wrap that up, and then I say, okay, so I just want to let you know how I do my estimates before we schedule. So I schedule my estimates for 1.5 hour blocks, and I only need you guys for the first 15 to 20 minutes and the last 15 minutes of the estimate. For the first 15 minutes, I just want to sit down with you and get to know, what you're looking for, like the warranty, colors, cover some basic things like that. But most importantly, I'd like to take a quick walk around the house to look at some of those problem areas that you mentioned and let you know what I'd recommend doing for those. And I can also work up a bunch of different options for you as we walk around the house. And then once we're done, I'll spend 20 or 30 minutes myself walking around the house, getting my measurements, and actually writing the estimate up and all those different options we talk about. And then for the last 15 minutes, I'll come back inside and sit down with you. I can run you through everything that I worked up, make sure that I got everything that you're looking for, and I can answer any other questions that you might have. And then we can kind of see where you'd like to go from there. Does that sound good? Okay, great. So, is there anyone else who have any input on the estimate, the colors, or what's being painted? All right, pause. So before we move into this part of the call, I just want to recap a couple things here. So this is really, really important. Every piece so far is actually important. This first section, we're finding out what they need and want, which is this one right here. And then the next one we're going to be doing is this process here. This is incredibly detailed. This is what customers want in an estimate, even if they don't know that this is what they want. What they want is someone who's a professional, who's knowledgeable, to come in and give them honest recommendations about what to do for their home, give them a number of different options so they can choose from, and then someone who's going to sit there and answer their questions and support them and not pressure them. So you'll notice in here there's going to be lots of like closes and talking to them about scheduling, but it's not pressure, and I never pressure because I don't believe in really pressuring people in sales. I think you lose more sales from doing that than you gain. So anyway, so this is important because I think it actually, when you explain this estimate process in detail, people are actually excited for the estimate because of the detail that you're going to be covering in the estimate. The thing that's going through their head is like they're excited, like they're gonna get everything. Like it's an overwhelming and stressful thing taking on home improvement projects. So to hear someone be this detailed and this thorough to come and take on a project gets people really excited for the estimate. So I see a lot of people getting started out have a lot of customers reschedule on them or cancel or not show to the estimate. That never happens to me because I'm giving people what they want and need in the estimate. So they want to do the estimate. It's not about me. This estimate's about them. All right, great. So this is obviously really big. And then it also sets us up for when we get to the estimate. It gives us an opportunity to really effectively like walk around the house and customize it and do a really excellent job for the customer at the estimate because we've set clear expectations. So the next little piece here is, so is there anyone else who will be having any input on the estimate, the colors, or what's being painted? I don't say decision maker because that's a turn-off word, but they'll usually say, yeah, my wife. Or yeah, my husband. Okay, great. Well, I definitely like to schedule a time where you can both, be at the estimate, because we're spending a lot of time, and I really want to make sure I get you both what you're looking for and answer all your guys' questions. So, can we schedule a time where you're both available? Usually they say yes. If they say no to this question, if they say no, that's fine. Even if you know they have a husband or wife, if they say no, that means no one else has any input. Like, they have input, but like they don't need to be at the estimate. So respect their no if they're no. Okay, great. So, can we schedule a time you're both available? Yeah, we can try. Okay, great. Do you have a calendar nearby? I always ask this question because if they don't have a calendar nearby, they will go get one. You don't need to ask them to, they'll just do it. And then I kind of break it down with questions. Do you prefer the weekday or weekends? Okay, great. Saturday or Sunday better for you? Morning or afternoon? How about 10 a.m. Saturday? Figure out your time however you would like. Okay, so I have Saturday, February 21st at 10 a.m. and I have your address is 775 Meadowlark Lane. Okay, great. And I'd like to give you my phone number real quick. Do you have a pen and paper? All right, so here's my phone number. I'd also like to give you our website. Here's our website. Okay, great. And also, I'm going to give you a call on Thursday or Friday just to confirm that time, Saturday morning at 10 a.m. still works. Does that sound good? Okay, great. So I'll call you on this phone number. Is this the best number to reach you at? Perfect. Okay, so one last thing. When I come out to do the estimate, the Saturday, if I get everything you guys are looking for, you like the price, if you guys actually want to schedule with me on that day, I can save you some extra money if you guys decide to do that because that would really help me out. So definitely keep that in mind. And do you have any other questions for me now? Okay, great. I'll look forward to seeing you on Saturday at 10 a.m. All right, bye-bye. And that's the end of the phone call. So once we've confirmed that we have all the people to be at the estimate, then we get into the scheduling aspect of it and exchanging information to make sure that's all good, and then letting them know we do a confirmation call, and then we just have this one last thing, like, hey, this is not a pressure close. This is like, hey, if you're already, like, set the discount aside. If I come out to do this estimate and you are happy with the estimate, you're happy with the price, you're happy with everything, you're like, let's do this, I'll knock some extra money off because that would be really great for me. So it's not like we offer a 10% for this day only. Because the truth is, when I get out to the estimate, if I finish the estimate and they say, cool, well, we need to think about it, and I ask them, what do you need to think about? And they tell me that they just need to check over their finances and they can get back to me in 3 days, I say, okay, cool, you can let me know by Wednesday? All right, great. Well, I'll just hold this discount for you till Wednesday, and if you can just let me know by Wednesday, I'll give you this lowest price. Because I'm on the same side with my customers. I really give that discount if they work with me. As long as they're not like, if they just call me when they say they're gonna call me, like, I'll give them a discount because most customers don't even do that. So so that's effectively the initial call script. Down here, you can see I've got a confirmation call script and the callbacks just for follow up. But this is the script. I use exactly the script. You see I changed some words here and there, but this is exactly the script I use to schedule the estimates that I do. And just this year, I closed, I think, 71% of my estimates this year, or something like that. It was up between 65 and 75 when I ended. And this is the exact script I use to set up every single one of my estimates. And I'll tell you one thing is for sure. I book jobs with my initial call. Like, people are already ready to go with me when I get to their house based on how I do this phone call. So and I've obviously been doing it for 8 years. But that's the call. So what I'll do is I'm going to save this initial call script for you, and I'm going to attach this below the video on the website at paintingbusinesspro.com. So this will be under the video, this initial call script, and I'm gonna cover a little bit more about sales over the course of the next few months, but I'm not certainly gonna be able to cover it all. So if you're really serious about doing this, the marketing aspect of the business, as we've shown, is really, really simple. The production can be really, really simple. Sales is the tough one. So if you're really serious about taking it on, I would encourage you to get the course I made on sales, and setting that aside, I'd like to make a video shortly covering just frequently asked questions. So, respond to the email that you got, and please let me know what questions you have or what you'd like to learn more about the painting business. And the next video I make is going to be answering your questions. So, let me know what those are, and let me know what you got out of this video. And we'll talk to you next time. Thanks.